Want to know the truth about why you're failing in life, in relationships, in money, and in power? You care too much, and that's why you lose. Think about the guy who texts her every day, the one who's always available, always giving, always trying to prove himself. She ghosts him, ignores him, treats him like an option. Meanwhile, the man who barely acknowledges her, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't validate, doesn't care, she's obsessed. Ever wondered why women run after the man who gives them nothing? Why they crawl back to the guy who treats them like an afterthought? Why your boss respects the employee who is ready to walk away, but disrespects the one who needs the job desperately? Why the world rewards the man who couldn't care less, but punishes the one who tries too hard? It's not an accident. It's called the paradox of not giving an F. The moment you stop chasing, stop begging, stop over-investing, the world bends to your will. But most men don't get this. They chase, they cling, they beg, they overthink, they overdo, and they fail. Today, we're breaking the cycle. By the end of this video, you'll never be weak again. You'll never chase validation, attention, or approval. You'll become the man who attracts effortlessly, commands respect, and dominates in every aspect of life. But first, comment below detachment. Number 1. The trap of caring too much. Men, this hurts to say, but you were lied to your entire life. You were told to be a good guy, to be available, to put in effort, to always be there. They told you that if you loved her harder, she would stay. If you worked longer hours, your boss would respect you. If you were nice to everyone, people would like you. And what happened? You poured your heart out to a woman, and she left you for a man who barely acknowledged her existence. You gave your all at work, and they promoted the guy who cared less than you. You tried so hard to be liked, and yet you were treated like a background character in your own life. Because caring too much is a weakness. The moment you want something too much, you lose it. The more effort you put in, the less you get back. The man who texts her daily, she ghosts him. The man who never calls, she stalks his Instagram. The man who begs his boss for a raise gets ignored. The man who applies elsewhere gets counter offers. The man who confesses his love gets rejected. The man who doesn't care, she wonders if he ever loved her at all. It's a trap. The harder you try, the worse it gets. And I know this hurts to hear because you're a good man. You believed in loyalty, in effort, in honesty. You thought that if you worked harder, if you gave more, if you just showed her how much she meant to you, she would see your worth. But that's not how the world works. Women don't respect effort. They respect value. And value isn't built by trying harder. It's built by being desired, respected, and irreplaceable. Let me tell you something that pains me to say, but you need to hear it. Women do not value men they can control. They want a man who is above them, someone they have to earn. And when a man is too available, too predictable, too eager, she sees him as beneath her. This is why the man who treats her like an option becomes her priority, because he is scarce. He is a challenge. He doesn't show his hand too soon. He doesn't make her feel secure immediately. He doesn't give away his value, and that makes him addictive. Meanwhile, the nice guy, she knows exactly where he stands. She knows he will never leave. She knows she has him. And once a woman knows she has you, the game is over. This is why men who care too much get destroyed. Because women don't reward effort, they reward perceived value. And perceived value comes from how much she has to work for you. And this doesn't just apply to women. This is why you're underpaid at work. Because you care too much about your job, and your employer knows it. This is why your friends take you for granted. Because you're always there for them, but they're not always there for you. The world punishes neediness. If you are too available, too eager, too giving, you will be used, disrespected, and discarded. Because people only value what they believe is hard to get. A man who is too emotionally invested, too dependent on approval, too desperate for attention, loses every single time. I know what you're thinking. What am I supposed to do? Stop caring. Just become cold and heartless. No, you need to control what you care about. Caring about yourself is strength. Caring about your mission is power. Caring about things outside your control is suicide. And that's the difference between weak men and strong men. Weak men care about what they can't control. Strong men control what they care about. Let me make this clear. This is not about being a bad person. This is about understanding human nature. Because if you don't learn this now, you will spend your life suffering. The men who stay in bad relationships, bad jobs, bad friendships, they don't know when to stop caring, and that's why they never win. But the man who understands his value, the one who removes his attention when it's not appreciated, that's the man women crave, bosses respect, and people admire. The one who can walk away without hesitation, that's the man who always wins. Number 2. The Stoic weapon, indifference. There's a reason the most powerful men in history had an air of mystery, a presence that commanded respect, an unshakable calm that made them feared and admired. It wasn't their wealth, it wasn't their looks, it wasn't their muscles, it was their indifference. A man who doesn't react, doesn't chase, doesn't seek validation, doesn't explain himself, doesn't beg for approval, that man is unstoppable. And I'll tell you why indifference is the ultimate power. Because when a man is indifferent, he cannot be controlled. When you stop caring about what people think, they start chasing your approval. When you stop chasing a woman, she starts chasing you. When you stop fearing loss, you become untouchable. Look at any man who commands respect. He's not the loudest. He's not the one constantly explaining himself, proving his worth, or trying to impress. No, he's the one who is perfectly fine with silence. The one who can sit in a room full of people and not need to fill the air with meaningless words. One who doesn't react when someone tries to provoke him. The one who doesn't rush to defend himself when someone doubts him because he doesn't care. And that scares people. It makes women obsessed. It makes men respect him because they don't know what he's thinking. Because they don't know if he cares. Because they don't know if he'll leave them behind in a second. And that mystery is power. Let's talk about women. Women are naturally drawn to men they cannot fully figure out. They crave uncertainty, emotional highs and lows, the feeling of winning a prize they had to work for. This is why women chase after men who don't text back immediately. It's why they obsess over men who seem emotionally distant. It's why they fixate on men who give them just enough attention to keep them hooked, but never enough to make them feel completely secure. Because indifference makes a woman feel like she has to earn you. And the moment a woman feels like she has to work for your attention, she values it 10 times more. Men who are too available, too eager, too willing to please. Women treat them like background noise. They don't respect them. They use them for validation, for attention, for ego boosts. But the men who don't react, who don't chase, who don't show desperation, they drive women insane. Because those men are a challenge, and a challenge is irresistible. Women do not want a man they can control. They want a man who is indifferent to their presence, a man who they feel they could lose at any moment. That's why the men who disappear get pursued. That's why the men who aren't afraid to walk away hold all the power. That's why the men who stay calm when she's trying to provoke him become addictive, because his emotions are not up for grabs, because she cannot get a reaction out of him, and that drives her insane. Let me tell you something about human psychology. People crave what they cannot have. This applies to everything: power, money, respect, relationships. And the moment someone feels like they cannot fully have you, that you are always slightly out of reach, they chase you harder. This is why women throw themselves at men who don't chase them. It's why employees who threaten to leave get offered raises. It's why people want to be friends with the guy who doesn't need friends, because his presence feels like a privilege. And that's what you need to become. A man whose attention feels like a privilege. A man whose time is valuable. A man whose approval is not given freely. Because the moment you start treating yourself like a prize, others will start treating you like one too. Indifference is not just about women. It is a weapon in every area of life. A man who is indifferent to money attracts more money. Why? Because he doesn't operate from desperation. Desperate men scare people away. The man who walks into a job interview knowing he doesn't need the job gets the job. The man who runs a business without begging for customers gets customers. Because people respect men who don't need them. A man who is indifferent to insults cannot be controlled. The moment you stop reacting to people's opinions, you become untouchable, because most people live for validation. And when they meet a man who doesn't need it, they respect him instantly. A man who is indifferent to arguments, to people's approval, to social pressure, that man is free. And freedom is the ultimate power. The reason most men suffer is because they are trapped. They are trapped by their emotions, by their need for attention, by their fear of being alone, by their desperate desire to be liked. And because they are trapped, they are weak. But the man who is indifferent to all of this, he is free. And because he is free, he is powerful. So what do you need to do? You need to stop reacting. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop justifying your actions. Stop caring about opinions that don't matter. You need to become a ghost in the minds of people who don't respect you. You need to walk into every situation knowing you could leave at any moment and still be fine. Because the moment you master indifference, you master life. Now let's talk about the final and most important weapon in your arsenal. Number 3, the power of walking away. There is nothing more powerful than a man who is willing to walk away. The man who can leave a relationship without hesitation owns the relationship. The man who can quit a job without fear controls his career. The man who can drop a disrespectful friend without second thoughts has self-respect. Because when you are willing to walk away, you become untouchable. Most men can't do this. They stay in toxic relationships, draining jobs, fake friendships, bad business deals, abusive families. Why? Because they fear loss. They fear being alone. They fear uncertainty. And because they fear, they become trapped. Let me tell you something. The moment you fear losing something, you are already enslaved by it. The moment you need a woman, she controls you. The moment you need a paycheck, your boss controls you. The moment you need people's approval, society controls you. And that's why weak men are prisoners of everything around them. But the strong man can walk away from anything at any moment and never look back. And that is why he always wins. A woman never truly respects a man who is afraid of losing her. A company never truly values an employee who is desperate for his job. The world never rewards the man who cannot let go. Think about this. Why do women chase the man who ignores them? Because she doesn't know if she has him. Why do companies offer counteroffers only when you resign? Because they only realize your value when they think you're leaving. Why do people start treating you better the moment you become distant? Because they feel your absence. And that's what you must master, the power of absence. Because here's a truth that will change your life forever. Your presence must feel like a privilege. The moment people feel like you will always be there, they stop valuing you. The moment a woman knows you will never leave, she loses attraction. The moment your boss knows you have nowhere else to go, he stops giving you raises. And the moment you learn how to walk away, you will see the world bend to your will. They test to see if you are weak. They test to see if they can control you. They test to see if you are afraid of losing them. And most men fail these tests without even realizing it. When she pulls back, most men chase. When she starts an argument, most men try to prove themselves. When she threatens to leave, most men beg for another chance. And the moment you do that, you lose all power because she now knows she has you. But the man who walks away, that man triggers a deep psychological panic in her mind because now she doesn't know if she has him. She doesn't know if he will come back. She doesn't know if he cares at all. And that drives her insane. This is why the men who are willing to walk away always have the most power. Because they are a challenge, because their presence is rare, because they are never afraid of loss. This applies to business as well. A man who is willing to walk away from bad deals always gets better offers. A man who is willing to walk away from a job is always respected more. A man who is willing to walk away from fake friendships only attracts real ones, because the world only values what it fears losing. And when you make yourself easy to lose, you make yourself high value. The ability to walk away from anything at any moment is what makes a man truly free. But how do you develop this? How do you become the man who never chases, never begs, never pleads? How do you become the man who can walk away from anything without fear? It starts with one simple rule. You must detach from everything you cannot control. You cannot control women. You cannot control other people. You cannot control how people treat you. The only thing you control is yourself. So you must train yourself to never attach to anything outside of yourself. When you text a woman, expect no response. When you ask for a raise, be prepared to quit. When you make plans with friends, be okay with going alone, because the man who is okay with losing is the man who never truly loses. This is how you train yourself to become emotionally unshakable. And once you reach that level, everything changes. In life, every man will face a moment where he must choose between begging or walking away. A moment where a woman will disrespect him just to see if he will tolerate it. A moment where a boss will underpay him just to see if he will accept it. A moment where a friend will betray him just to see if he will still stay. And in that moment, most men fail because they fear loss more than they value their own worth. But the man who chooses himself over everything else, that man becomes untouchable. Because once you prove to yourself that you can walk away from anything, you prove to yourself that you are truly free. The reason most men lose in life, in love, in business, in friendships, is because they see themselves as replaceable. They believe they need others more than others need them. They believe they have to hold on to things that do not serve them. And because they believe this, they suffer. But the moment you understand that you are the prize, the moment you understand that you are the one who must be earned, the moment you understand that your presence is a privilege, not a right, you will see everything change. Because now you no longer chase. Now you let them prove themselves to you. Now you let the world show you why it deserves you. And that is the power of walking away. If you're still here, you are different from other men. Because most men will never hear this message. Most men will stay trapped in their fears. Most men will never have the courage to walk away. But you know the truth now. And that means you will never be weak again. Comment below. I never chase, I attract. And if this video gave you even 1 ounce of value, subscribe right now, because YouTube only recommends content that gets engagement. And by subscribing, you make sure more men wake up. So, hit subscribe now. And remember, the one who cares less wins.